I know wearing sunglasses inside is not really a, I'm wearing sunglasses because of this backlight. I'm sure you can see it in the reflection of the glasses there, but I cannot see. When I take off the glasses, I'm looking at the camera like this. So we're not gonna share that with y'all. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be not fishing, but we are going to be preparing for the spring run here in the James River. We got various types of shad, got herring, white perch, striper, flatheads. I mean, a lot of stuff is moving around, moving up to spawn, to eat, all that good stuff. Right now, I'm going to be going over, the gear per each species on how I target these guys and the rigs. I mean, gear is in rod, reel, lures. The majority of this video, actually the whole video, is probably just going to be over lure stuff. If you're looking to have a bottom fishing video, something where you're throwing baits out there, I'll go over that in a different video. But today, we are going primarily over the lures, preparing for the springtime here in the James River in Richmond. So right now we're going to start with the shad bag. Shout out to Seth for hooking me up with some shad spoons. I was unable to find them because I waited to the last minute and couldn't find them. So these are the shad spoons. Now, these spoons can be used in a different couple rigs that I tend to use. When targeting the hickory shad, I like to use the smaller spoons. The American shad, on the other hand, is an illegal fish to catch here in Virginia. Well, not to catch, but to keep. The American shad and hickory shad, you really need to know your differences between the two species before you start keeping anything, just because you can get a ticket and you will get a ticket for keeping American shad. They are protected. But the American shad, if you'd like to have a little bit more of an aggressive pull on your line, you're just catching them for fun, I generally will go for the larger spoons. Two types of rigs I like to use for these. If you want to know exactly how to make these rigs, there will be links below in the description to show you exactly how to make each of these rigs. This is the first rig that I'm going to be showing y'all. This is more or less what I use when I'm trying to just go get some cut bait, get some hickory shad and be able to cut them up a little bit and throw them out for a striper, catfish, whatever. But all it is, it's a trolling weight followed down by, I'm using 12-pound test right here, down to the spoon. So this will get you a little bit deeper in the water, and then when you're pulling it through, you have this fluttering in the back, and this does a whole bunch of action by itself. You don't have to do too much twitching or anything like that. You can if you want to, but it's not necessary, because you'll see if you just pull this through the water, this is just fluttering all over the place. I mean, it's a great rig. Generally, when shad season first starts and I'm looking for them, this is what I use, because this covers more ground. So I can cover more ground and try to find that fish, and once the fish start getting thick, I can switch over to the next rig I'm going to show you. But when using this, like I said, this is about 12-pound test right here. My main line is usually about 10-pound test, and then since we're throwing weights, this is the rod that I'll use for this rig. The main thing when you're looking to pair a rod with what you're throwing is just make sure it says right here, it says lure weight 3/4 ounce to 2 ounce. So every rod has a specific weight that it will throw like the best. Every rod really has a sweet spot and they're all really different. This is a 7-footer, plenty of backbone to get the trolling weight and the spoon to just roll through the water. When using this rig though, make sure that you have some depth, as in like you don't want to be fishing too shallow with this, especially from the bank. You're gonna find a lot of snags. You're gonna find a lot of snags really quickly. So generally with this whole setup, I'm gonna be fishing deeper water. Now the reel for that, I mean, you can really use like a 2,000 size reel, 2,500, something like that. You don't need anything too aggressive, you're just shad fishing. The next rig, this rig is more or less used for shad fishing, just for the sport of it. Like, I mean, yeah, obviously you can catch them this way and use them for bait, but you're a lot more involved with the fishing here. Twitching the lures, pausing, creating your own action to them. But the pink spoon, I'm sorry, this is supposed to represent a dart. I'm out of shad darts, so I gotta get some more of those. You got this part, which is gonna attach to your rod, not to your rod. This is gonna attach to your main line, and then you have a shad dart, which is represented by a pink spoon right now, trailed by an actual shad spoon. The dart is gonna, they'll hit the dart a lot. Like, it's pretty much 50-50. I've seen them hit the dart just as much as I've seen them hit the trailing spoon. But the dart's gonna give you a little bit of a weight to be able to throw it out, cover a little bit more water. Not as much as the one with the trolling sinker, but you still wanna be able to get it out. So we have that rig. I have a completely different setup for throwing the dart and spoon combo. This is rated for 1/16 to 1/4 of an ounce. The dart and the spoon together should fall within that. And this rod can really, I mean, I can't show you, but And on the main line for this, I have 8-pound test. You can use braid. It's really up to you, but I prefer mono, 8-pound mono for this setup. This rod really flings them out there, but I can't tell you how important it is when you're pairing a rod and a reel. It's just to make sure that what you're throwing falls in line with what it's rated for. Most important thing. Questions all day. What rod, what reel should I use? I mean, you have a lot of freedom, and it's not necessarily that you're gonna be doing anything wrong, but you can imagine. I only got the bottom half of this, but imagine that you're using this to throw this rod altogether in length is 9 foot. You know, you got 30-pound braid on here. It's not going to go very far. You're not going to be able to load this up on this rod. Did I just flick y'all off? So that's pretty much shad fishing. Now shad fishing, you're not limited to spoons and darts. If I had one spoon to go with, I would say it's a very close tie between silver and gold. And don't get it wrong, I mean, these spoons right here, they'll catch a lot more than just shad. I mean, largemouth bass, catfish venom, the white perch, the blueback herring. But really, this is what I use when targeting the hickory shad. And the same thing, like the same 2 rigs, American shad, that's the same way I fish them. But again, I will use the larger spoons to target those guys. Part 2, striper fishing. Striper fishing. Oh, all right. Striper fishing. So, striper fishing, we have stuff like larger swim bodies like this, slightly smaller like this, swim bodies that you can pair with, with like 1 to 3 ounce jigs, depending on what the water's doing. You might want to go a little bit heavier. If it's running faster, if it's moving slower, you might want to go a little bit lighter. But we also have, golly, I got this from Houston. I'll link him too. I don't know if he's selling any this year. I know he's been really busy, but he makes some incredible custom lures, poppers, like any top water plugs, anything for these stripers. And man, they work. They're handcrafted, hand painted, like just no cheap parts. Like this stuff is like, that's why I hate using them, because like if I've lost them before and I just feel sick the rest of the day. We have the smaller top water, slightly larger, you know, stuff like this. Top water, throwing top water right now, especially at the beginning of spring, isn't a waste of time, a complete waste of time. But you really want to use the top water when the water starts heating up a little bit more. They're a little bit more active, more willing to chase. But moving into spring, what you're going to find is a lot of people are throwing stuff like this, jerk baits, larger jerk baits. With all of this stuff, I use 50 to 60 pound leader, depending on what I'm doing, where I'm fishing, how bad it is. If there's a lot of rocks, I will use the longer leader. I'll still use maybe 5-6 feet of it. If we're casting the leader through the guides, you want to probably use an FG knot. But if you're casting it and the leader is not through the guides, a shorter leader like 3 foot, 2.5 feet, something like that, then I just do a real quick uni to uni knot. But yeah, I use this 50 pound to 60 pound for this leader right here. But I do pair that with mainline for braid. Back to this rod right here. This is the 9-footer. This is the TFO, and this is paired with the BG4. This is paired with the BG 4000. Great reel. You don't have to go too big of a reel in most areas in Richmond on the James River, just because you got to think, you got 300 yards of something. You're not going to need all that, because if you got a fish stretching you out 300 yards, they're going to be in a bridge, on a tree, on a rock, something. I mean, you just need to make sure that you have a reel that has enough drag pressure for your line. Usually it's about, like, you want to be able to have somewhere around like 10 pounds of drag pressure on 30-pound line. Usually it's about 1/3 is how I like to set it. I don't know the exact numbers because it's really mostly by feel at this point. I have 30-pound test braid, mono leader on top. This is a 9-footer and it can throw up to 3 ounces. So that's when I will pair something like this, the larger swim baits. This rod, this reel can handle it no problem. If I'm going for the smaller ones, or you know, a top water plug or something that's a little bit lighter, I still have a 9-footer just to be able to get some distance on it. And this rod is rated up to 1.5 ounces. So I mean, right around 1 ounce for this rod it'll it'll send it across the river. I have that paired with Pin Conflict 2 4000. This I have 20-pound test on. Not to say that the big fish won't hit the smaller lures, because trust me, they will. But this just pairs up nicely with this. I'm not exactly a huge, this is a completely different story. I'm not exactly a huge fan of this reel, but this is what I'm working with right now, because you know, everybody knows fishing costs money and don't really have something else to substitute for this at this point. I'm still using the same leader, still using about 50 to 60 pound for the lures. So yeah, so this covers the smaller stuff, which is still big baits. You know, that covers a lot of just the general information on the gear that I use when targeting striper here in the James River in the spring. If you're fishing from a boat, or you know, you're from the 14th Street Bridge or something, a lot of people are up there, they like to bottom fish from the 14th Street Bridge. Like I said, we're not gonna get too far into that, but another great lure, or would you call that a lure? But sabikis, if you're on a boat. I mean, you can use it from the bank too. It's not as effective, and those will catch just about anything. Either the shad, herring, don't keep the herring, white perch, you know, it'll really catch anything. I've caught baby striper on them as well, but those are great, you know, especially if you're on a boat and you're out with the kids and you just, you know, you don't want them having to work a lure or something. Just drop a sabiki down for them and let them just work it up and down. They're gonna catch fish. That being said though, they gotta be kind of quick with setting the hook and bringing them up, because if not, and the fish starts swimming around it, it's gonna be quite the headache to take all those knots out. So something that's gotten a lot of attention from the channel, flathead fishing. Now, flathead fishing, there's places that produce and hold flathead more than others, but they're all throughout the river. With those, I mean, I really love using curly tails, big swim bodies like this, and you just pair those, again, same way that you do the striper, with like a 2-ounce jig head. You know, 1.5 ounce. Again, it all depends on the water conditions, on what size you're using. It's a different style of fishing. You're working it high, fast moving, dark water. Flathead fishing is awesome. And flathead fishing, I'll go back towards this, just because the flatheads, I mean, gosh, 50, 60 pound fish out there, stuff like that. I want to have a rod that's going to be able to try to pull them out, because when they fight, they actually fight good. And you want to be able to have some control of them, because I'm sure y'all have seen, if y'all have watched my channel, is a lot of times you lose fish just because, not necessarily that you did something wrong, but just because there's structure at the bottom. There's limbs, there's trash, there's rocks, and they'll find the rock in that line, especially if you're not using a long mono leader. You know, they'll still break the mono leader, don't get me wrong. It'll just, the pressure you have on the fish versus the fish's weight, and lines taking all the tension, you know, it just nicks something that your fish is gone. So especially with flathead fishing is when I would recommend using the FG knot and using a much longer leader, just because it can be a little bit more durable out there with the elements. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to get a video out just to try to answer some common questions. It's not a video full of fishing action and stuff like that, which will definitely be here shortly. So please do consider subscribing. If you're new to the channel and you're like, hey man, you know, you're talking all this stuff, you know, do you actually catch fish? Just look at my channel. I catch some fish. I'm not the best fisherman in the world, but I know enough to be able to pass on information to help you be successful. Any of these rigs, any of these setups, blah blah blah, whatever, they will be linked in the description below to show y'all how to make these rigs as well. If you have a question or comment, something I didn't go over, please leave it in the comment section below. Give the video a like. This does take time to make videos like this, and sitting in front of this circular light in my eyes, this is not great, again, which is why I have these on. Give it a like for my efforts if you can. Hopefully I see a lot of y'all out there on the river this year. It's going to be fun. We didn't have like a very strong winter this year, so things might be a little bit different. We might start seeing some things a little bit earlier than usual, but we will see. Should have a fishing video out soon. The river level's going back down slowly. It just rained up north, so it's been a pain in the butt. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys on the river. Will it be the river next? Yeah, it'll be the river next time. It'll be the river. Thanks guys, have a good one. Later.